Hi, and we're back. Death, divorce, a breakup. It doesn't matter how it happens, only that you find yourself alone. Grieving is a normal reaction after such a loss, but then you've got to move on. How do you do that, and how do you handle all those feelings and keep your head above water? Well, my next guest has kind of figured that out. Victoria Schmidt has written a book called Finding Solitary Contentment. That's what she did after the loss of her husband of 58 years. It wasn't easy, but she's sharing what she learned with others. And Victoria, thank you so much for being here.
And thank you for having me.
First question, you were encouraged to write this book by an assistant rector at a church in Virginia who admired the way you were handling your grief after your husband's death.
Yes. While he was dying of Parkinson's disease, I knew I had to return to church. I hadn't been for several years, so I'd go once in a while. So I knew that I would go, the church that I would go to, and it was a beautiful church, almost a cathedral in Upperville, Virginia. I went there the Sunday after I learned that my husband had died, and the lady came. I'm sort of emotional about it because it was an emotional time for me.
Of course.
And Blair Pogue walked up to me. It was at the church's coffee hour. And she said, she talked with me for a while. And after a while, she said, you know, you're handling your grief so well. You should share it with others. And I said, I have strength, and I didn't realize the strength that I had at the time. But as time went by, I began to think about it, and I wasn't ready to write the book at that point.
It took you 7 years, didn't it?
Well, no, it took me 7 years to write the book. But I started within a couple of years after my husband died. And I interviewed people, I did a lot of research, I talked to many people that I know in all walks of life, and that's how the book came about.
Now, you, in the beginning of the book, of course, you address grieving, but you don't stay there very long. You move on and start talking about looking forward. And that was intentional.
That absolutely intentional. I'm a very positive person, and I loved my husband. I miss him to this day, and it's been 12 years. But I feel everyone is here for a purpose. I'm here for a purpose. And what is that purpose? And my profession has been writing in all different aspects. And then I began to think about it. And in one day, I made the list of all the subjects that I would write about. I adjusted them as time went by, but that's when I began to write the book. And it took me 7 years to write it.
You said, yeah, 7 years is a while, of course, but you came to realize that if you're alone, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be lonesome or lonely.
I feel you are alone when you've lost someone if you don't have people close to you, but you must go out. That's one of my main objects in passing on to people, is that you must mingle with others. That's most important of all. But you are not alone. There are people out there that are with you and have felt the same way you do. I don't even like to say suffer or been in pain, because I look at life positively. We're here for a reason, and we should enjoy life. There's so much in life. There are negatives, there are tragedies. I lost my entire family. All I have left is my daughter, and I love her, and she's my blessing. But you must look at life positively, and that's why I spent just one chapter on how to handle, ways to handle grief.
You recommend that women, they've been defined or attached to their husbands for most of their adult life, obviously, and that, first of all, it's a shock when, you know, when a husband or a breakup happens, but that you really have to start defining yourself.
You must define yourself. And yes, I felt as one person, and you live that way for a long time, but there comes a time when you must find your own identity. And in my book, I list things that you must think about, like what do you like, what do you dislike? Find your own identity. Separate yourself from who you lost, but and remember him. Remember, well, you might have lost your mother. Women who have bought my book have said that I lost my mother, and you've been very helpful. It isn't just losing a spouse, but that's what I lost, so I lost most of my family anyhow.
So you say not only do you have to ask these questions, but in various different fields, like what do I want or what do I need from family or finances?
Yes,
friends?
I have chapters that spend time. And you have to look at your sexuality. You must analyze your sexuality. All of these things take time, and by the time you're finished, I divide my thoughts about losing someone and moving on into 4 areas. My book is almost that way, but after I published the book, then I realized there's a little bit more. And the first thing is handling your grief. The second thing is going on to renewal. Renew your life, and part of it is your sexuality, how you feel about yourself, your identity, and several more. And that's the second part. The third part is the bridge from renewal of your life to going on to a new life. And that part, to me, the middle part, the bridge, the passage, as I call it in my book, is most important because it takes you time. And some people take much longer to put the grief behind them. But I always say that person is always here with you, always. As long as you're here on earth, that person is with you. So don't think about it negatively that he, she is gone, but that they are here and you can always call on them. I call on all my lost people all the time.
Do you?
Yes. Still, always.
People you can rely on.
People that you can run and have influenced your life. I talk to them every night. It's like my prayer.
Now, you write in the book that it's critical not to make major life decisions right after a breakup, a divorce, a death. Talk about why.
Well, there are many women that I've talked with in my research that have made these decisions very quickly.
Like selling a home or?
Selling a home. But one that really hurt me, I mean, I felt it strongly. I didn't know her when it happened, but I interviewed her. And a gallant came along and convinced her to move into a place in the country. Within 2 months, she asked her to leave. And she learned later that he had done that before and was going into another one. So you have to take your time. And then there was another woman that I interviewed who had a wonderful family, grandchildren, and they invited her, and she loved them, of course, and she moved in. She realized that she wasn't going to be a long-time babysitter. So she was lucky that she could go back to her other home. It hadn't sold, so she went back there and started a whole new life.
So it's important to just take a deep breath and
anything that you do, anything that you do. And you have so many things that you have to do when you lose someone and you can put aside moving along and concentrate on the things that you have to do.
Okay, we need to take a quick break. We'll be back with more of Victoria Schmidt right after this. Please stay with us. Hi, we're back, and we're talking with Victoria Schmidt, who wrote a book called Finding Solitary Contentment, which she wrote after the death of her husband, to whom she was married for 58 years. Right. Congratulations on that. And you were talking about the stages that you go through in this book, or that you talk about. One is grief, another is renewal, and then there's passage.
Yes, and the passage is the most important part of grieving, because you should analyze and how you feel about where you are in your stages of grieving. And at this point, if you're not ready to move on to embrace a new life, then you should go back and review the periods that you experienced and the things that you felt, and you must overcome them. You must be emotionally, physically, and financially ready to move on. If you're not, take time. And that's something I learned that, to me, is one of the most important aspects of grieving. Some people take longer, much longer than others, and you should want to move on, because if you don't want to move on, then you won't.
It's not really going to happen.
It won't happen unless you want to.
So the fourth part of this that you talk about is embracing a new life. So if you've gotten to the passage part and you're ready to move on, what does embracing a new life look like?
Well, there's so many things in life. One of the most important that I found in interviewing people and with myself was taking on a new partner, another significant other. Some people want that and some people don't. It was interesting. I met someone shortly after my husband died that was 29 years younger than I. And he helped me through the first phases of my life. And then we had a pleasant companion relationship. And then it was because we were both alone. And I think that's something that you have to consider. What do you want in a partner? Do you want another partner? But one of the most important things I feel is if you're a woman, there are men, of course, who lose their wives, go on to another group of women. I never had to experience lots of friendships with women, but I fell into a group. It's an easy group of women who have lost their husbands or lost their spouses. And we meet from time to time, a casual, informal group that reach out to women and get to be friends, and then you can help other people. I'll go on to one other thing that I think is the most important thing in embracing a new life, is reaching out to help others. And I call that a positive pursuit. And my positive pursuit is my book, because it's something that I knew how to do, and that's why I'm helping people by writing my book. And
you did a lot of research. You talked to a lot of people about this.
I talked to a lot of people, and I have a lot of professional people in the book, and I really appreciate them. It goes from like Mayo Clinic, the Harvard Medical School, my own doctor, financial professionals, every phase, and they're all in my book, and I appreciate their help.
You know, you were talking about dating a moment ago. How do you know if you're ready to begin dating again or to begin socializing?
Well, it happens in various ways. You should be open to friendships, not looking for dating necessarily, but go to places where people are just mingling. Go to a new church. If you know the people in the churches you go to, find another church. I've done something just recently. The only thing that I find with my health, I'm a very healthy person, and I keep busy intellectually, but I needed to go to a health and wellness center for some balance. And all of a sudden I realized, oh, there are a lot of people here. And most of them, strangely, were my age. But I haven't made any connection with anyone, but that's a place you can go, or go take dancing lessons. There are many places out there, and I mention them in my book.
It's so hard for people, I think, though, to make the jump to put themselves out there, isn't it?
Oh, it is. And also you have to be very careful that most people will meet people through their friends and their families, and I think that's an excellent way to meet people. But be open to it. Don't turn them away. If they're younger, they're older, be open to it.
You also write about, when it comes to companionship, that some people ought to consider a pet.
Oh, to me, that's what I did.
What did you get?
And in my new book, the second book that I wrote, pardon me for mentioning it, but I mention my pet. And I also do a whole chapter in my book about unconditional love. And just try going to a kennel or a rescue place, and you'll fall in love with someone, a dog or a cat. And I did. And I have a pet that I call Dominique. She's a wonderful dog, and I go walking with her every morning.
Now, you mentioned before about the pursuit of, you have different pursuits the way you look at it. There's pursuits of purpose and pleasure. Talk about the difference.
Well, I think you owe yourself pursuing a pleasure. Decide to go to even alone, and there are places that you can go alone. I mentioned many of them in my book, going on the internet. There are groups that travel together. There are groups that, well, I went on a singles cruise. It wasn't something that but I met some people. But let's reach out. You look in my book and you'll find loads of places that you can go to meet other people. As I've said too, go to a church, go to a YMCA, go to a dancing class. There are loads of places to meet others.
That's a pursuit of pleasure. What's a pursuit of purpose?
Oh, my pursuit, as I said, my pursuit with a purpose is writing my book. That's my talent, that's my craft, that's what I've developed. But you can do other things. You can look on the internet to find a charity that you might help, or go to people in your community who know of families or individuals who are in need. And that, to me, is the most rewarding feeling, emotion that you can experience by helping other people. And as I said, my book is my purpose. And there are things that you can just do for yourself. Or you can become an intern, offer yourself to any local charities. There are many places out there that you can find.
And you've made it a point to put resources, websites inside the book so people will have them.
They're in the copy as I write the book, but they're also in the appendix. By chapter, you will find them.
Now, I just want to go back to the title for a second as we wrap up. It's Solitary Contentment. It is achievable?
Absolutely achievable, but you must want to achieve it. Open your mind. I've come across some people, and it makes me so sad that they're not ready to do it. And go back into, if you get a copy of the book or go to the library and see one, go through the list of things that you should do and think about, and it'll renew your life, or renew you so that you're open to embracing a new life.
And did you ever think that this was possible after you lost your husband?
No, but I knew I had to do something. I was here for a reason, and we're all here for a reason, and one should make sure that you understand that and pursue it.
Very good. Victoria Schmidt, thank you so much for being here. And that's it for this edition of Perspective New Jersey. I'm Nora Mushanek, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.